I never get this idea of people who, who talk about the, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. What is a spirit? What are they actually talking about? That's I don't understand.
Okay.
And you can ask them,
yes.
What is a spirit? What are you talking about? Nobody will be able to tell you.
In fact, I want to add on to that. In that, I'd say in discussions, I literally tell people, if you say you're a religious person versus a spiritual person, I'd give more credibility to the religious person, because at the very least, a religious person follows a structure of like, okay, cool. What I know, I've learned from this structure, from this whatever. Versus if you are
there's some dogma and principles.
If you're a spiritual person, yes, it sort of makes sense when you say, if you're a religious person, it makes sense in that, okay, you've been taught the structures, the dogma, the indoctrination. A spiritual person, basically, for me, it's like, it's even crazier, because to me, all it says is just like, oh, okay, so you just make up your own shit. Whatever seems good to you at the time is that's what it is for me. Like, if you come to me and tell me like, I'm spiritual, not religious, you lose the credibility that the religious person has over you. That's just it's those things that sound good on paper, but when you actually look at it, it's like
exactly.
It sounds good when you say it, but when you look at it on paper, it's like, it's
it's a deity. Like, what did Daniel Dennett calls them deities? They're things that sound profound, but they are actually empty.
Yes. I mean, it's I'm a part of like a few WhatsApp groups where like people will come, they'll call me, where it's like, okay, cool, and then they'll have these different discussions. They'll ask me, okay, what's your point on religion? Why do you feel this way? And then a person will come and like, but I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And I'm like, even worse, that's even crazier, because at least this person, if my friend who says they're Christian, at least I know what the doctrine is. I can follow your the scriptures systematically. It makes a bit more. It's a bit more structured. It makes more sense. And then when a spiritual person is like, today I just woke up. Today I just feel like, it's just a weird thing. But it's so interesting. It's so interesting when you take. In fact, I realized there's this thing. A lot of, I'd say, experienced atheists, or that atheists who've been atheists for a long time, they'll call it a phase like of the what's this thing? An angry atheist phase, where it's like when you deconvert, you're like, hey, my parents lied to me. People lied to me. This was such a lie. Oh my goodness!
Exactly.
It's when I look
natural,
back,
it's natural to go through that. They call it the angry. It's natural because if you look at it, logically, you've been conned. You've been told a lie, and you believed it, and when you realize this, you feel stupid. You feel stupid, and you're going to feel angry. And the best way to express that, and the natural way to express that, is to expel that anger from your body. And the first target that usually comes up is the person that comes to you with 6,000 years ago, Adam and Eve in the garden, and then they get it.
But there's this sort of there's this, I wouldn't say, maybe I'd say maybe I'm less angry about it, where the initial outlook I had was that I feel like my parents lied to me. That was my initial thing, where it's like now versus now. When I look at it, it's like they didn't lie to me. They didn't lie to me. Lying implies that you are intentionally deceiving, right? I look at it now, I'm
Exactly.
like, okay, for example, my parents are religious, right? But it's like they're doing what they thought was the right thing. You know, I take a step back, I look at it
Exactly. Yeah. There's no ill intent, like parents will never,
yes,
very seldom parents will try to, deliberately harm their children, like they did what they thought was best for you and was in your best interest, like it's never done with malicious intent, I think, so you do, we all have to go through that process where you actually forgive people and you say like, okay, I understand that you did this just because you thought it was in my best interest, and I understand that, and you move out of that, but I was lucky in the sense that my mother passed away quite a long time ago, so I didn't have to go through that process with her,
that
but with
phase,
my aunt and my cousins, they were all very shocked, like they thought they're gonna hear some story in the newspaper of me worshipping the devil under in the moonlight and all of that nonsense.
Yeah. I'd say similarly in that I was lucky in that my parents are more liberal in that they're very like explore ideas, have good reasons to have good reasons to hold the beliefs you do, so I was just fortunate in that. Okay, cool. Coming out to my mom was easy. It was like, Mom, I've graduated from church. It's like, and but coming out to my dad was a bit trickier because he was more like a devout member of the Catholic Church. Where it's like, I was that kid who was like, oh, I was the altar boy,
Okay.
I just did everything. I was very active, but it was like coming out to my dad, because my dad was also like a very active member of the church. It was like, hey, I had no idea how it would react, but fortunately, it was like, yeah, Dad, and I was like, no, man, it's cool. Time to time, we'd have discussions, like maybe I'd post the status. Well, maybe questioning a particular doctrine or questioning a certain verse, or maybe I'll talk about the Crusades, something, and then we'd have a discussion. We'll talk it out, and we'll leave it at that. And so fortunately for me, I'm in that sort of like good place where it's like, okay, I'm free to do that with my parents. It's
excellent. That's amazing to have that relationship and that freedom and openness. It sounds like you've got a relationship with your parents where you can have a dialogue with them, and interact.
Yes, definitely.
That's an amazing place to be.
I think it ties into your initial question where you asked why aren't there, or why is atheism associated mainly with white people? It's never white males generally. It's never, you don't, when you think atheist, you don't generally think African or woman, or it's generally, I think that in contrast to a situation that I have that I had in my household, generally, I think in a lot of African households, parents are very devout. It's crazy. They tend to be very, very, very devout and religious. Where it spans to the thing of what is it? Even sexuality. Sexuality is a big deal.